The first thing a man notices about a woman has nothing to do with her face, her body, or how attractive she is. And every woman who has ever wondered why a certain man noticed her, or why he didn't, needs to hear what comes next. Because the answer is not what you've been told. It is not what the beauty industry tells you. It is not what magazines have been repeating for decades. And the fact that nobody is being truly honest with you about this is the exact reason so many women keep working harder and harder on the wrong things and still end up feeling invisible in the rooms they walk into. Here is what actually happens. A man walks into a room, his brain starts taking in information faster than he can. And in those first few seconds, before he has had a single conscious thought about who is attractive and who isn't, before he has registered faces clearly or taken in outfits or processed anything deliberately, his brain has already picked up on something else entirely, something that lives underneath the surface, something that doesn't come from how you look, but from how you feel, from the signals your body is already sending before you have opened your mouth, before you have made eye contact, before you have done a single thing on purpose. Women are told from a very young age that attraction starts with looking good. That is the message. It gets repeated everywhere. Fix the outside, work on your appearance, be thinner, be prettier, have clearer skin, dress better, and then he will notice you. And so women pour enormous amounts of time, energy, and money into the outside, into the things you can see and plan and control and adjust, while completely ignoring the layer underneath, the layer that actually reaches a man first. The body signals that land on him before he has even made a decision about whether he finds you attractive or not. And here is the painful truth buried underneath all of this. Those signals are already running right now. Every single time you walk into a room, every time you are in a conversation, every time you are near a man you want to notice you, your body is already sending him information. The question is not whether those signals are being sent. The question is what those signals are actually saying about you. And most women genuinely have no idea because nobody ever taught them to look at this layer. Nobody ever told them that this is where attraction actually begins. This video is going to change that. Because once you understand what a man's brain is actually picking up on first, once you see clearly which 5 body signals reach him before anything else does, you stop guessing. You stop wasting effort on the wrong things. You stop wondering why some women seem to pull attention without even trying, while others try constantly and still feel like they fade into the background. The answer has always been in these 5 signals. And once you understand them, you will not be able to unsee them. Signal number 1. The way she moves through a room, before a man hears your voice, before he sees your face up close, before any conversation has started, he has already felt something from the way you move. Not whether you move gracefully or perfectly, not whether your walk looks practiced or polished or carefully put together. What he picks up on is something much simpler and much more powerful than any of that. He feels whether your movement looks free or tight, easy or tense, comfortable in itself, or like it's bracing against something. When a woman walks into a room and her movement is genuinely easy, not rushed, not stiff, not apologetic, she takes up space without appearing to try. There is no visible tension in how she carries herself. She doesn't shrink as she walks in. She doesn't speed through the room to reach a corner where she'll feel less exposed. She doesn't pull her arms in or drop her eyes or make herself physically smaller to avoid drawing attention. She moves like she belongs there. Not in an arrogant way. Not in a look at me way. Just in a simple, natural, completely comfortable way. And a man feels that before he has consciously processed a single other thing about her. That feeling registers in him as a quiet, automatic signal. And what it communicates is this woman is at ease in her own skin, and ease is magnetic in a way that almost nothing else is. Because genuine ease is actually rare. Most people walking into a room are carrying some version of tension with them. Some quiet version of wondering how they're coming across, whether people are looking at them, whether they're too much or somehow not quite enough. That tension shows up in the body, whether a person wants it to or not. The shoulders tighten, the steps get a little quicker and smaller, the arms come in slightly, the eyes drop, and a man feels all of it. What makes the way a woman moves so powerful as a first signal is that it communicates something about her relationship with herself before any words are exchanged. A woman who moves with ease, is telling him, without knowing she's telling him anything, that she has a settled enough relationship with herself that being seen doesn't feel threatening. That walking into a room full of people doesn't require armor or performance or careful management, that she is on some basic level okay. And that kind of okay is attractive in a way that no specific feature or outfit or physical characteristic can manufacture. On the other side of that, a woman who walks in already braced for judgment tells a completely different story with her body. The tight posture, the folded arms, the quick steps aimed at getting somewhere less exposed. The energy of someone who wants to get through the room without being looked at too closely. And a man picks up on that signal without choosing to. Not as a judgment of her, just as information, as a signal that says she's not quite settled. And a signal like that doesn't create pull. It creates quiet distance, even before a word has been said. Most women have been so focused on how they look while moving that they have never stopped to feel how they feel while moving. And those are two entirely different things. How you look while moving can be practiced and adjusted from the outside. How you feel while moving, whether there is genuine ease underneath the steps or whether there is tension you're trying to cover, that comes from somewhere much deeper. It comes from a quiet, settled sense of your own right to be in the room. And when that settled sense is genuinely there, a man feels it the moment you walk in. Signal number 2, where she puts her attention. Here is something most women have never been told about how men actually experience attraction. A man notices the woman in the room who is not looking for his approval. She registers to him immediately, not because she is running a strategy, not because she is deliberately ignoring him or playing any kind of game, but because a woman who is genuinely absorbed in her own experience, fully engaged with whoever she is actually talking to, interested in what is actually in front of her rather than scanning around to see who is watching, gives off an energy that is fundamentally different from a woman who is performing. When a woman is genuinely present in what she is doing, when she is really listening to the person she is with, when she is actually laughing rather than making sure people see her laugh, when she is interested in the conversation for its own sake rather than as a vehicle for being noticed, she stops managing her image. And the moment a woman stops managing her image, something real comes through. Something warm and genuine that you can feel from a distance. Something that makes you want to get closer to understand it better. That is exactly what a man's attention locks onto. Not the polished performance. The moment the performance drops, think about what it actually feels like to talk to someone who is completely present with you versus someone who is slightly elsewhere. Someone whose attention keeps drifting, whose eyes check the room, who adjusts how they're sitting when someone new walks in. You feel that drift immediately. It doesn't feel good. It feels like you are not quite enough to hold their attention on your own. And attraction cannot grow in that kind of gap. It needs presence. It needs the experience of being with someone who is actually right here, right now, genuinely in this. The woman who keeps looking around to see if she is being noticed is actually making herself harder to notice in the way that really matters. Because the signal she is sending without realizing it is that she needs the room's attention to feel stable. She needs the external confirmation to feel okay about herself in the moment. And a man picks up on that need, not deliberately, not judgmentally, but instinctively. It makes her seem less settled, less complete in herself. Like she is waiting for something outside her to fill something inside her. And that signal doesn't draw him toward her. It quietly pushes him to a neutral distance. But the woman who laughs genuinely at something her friend said, who doesn't glance around to see if anyone noticed her laughing, who is asking real questions and listening to the real answers, who moves through the evening like she came for herself and not for the audience. She becomes the most interesting presence in the room without doing anything designed to be interesting. And here is what makes this signal so powerful. She usually has no idea she is doing it. She is just actually there, genuinely present, genuinely engaged. And that genuine quality is the most powerful thing she could possibly send, because it cannot be manufactured and it cannot be faked. Signal number 3, the look in her eyes when she talks. You can read more about how a person truly feels about themselves from their eyes in conversation than from almost anything else about them. And men feel this even when they are completely unable to put it into words. They feel the difference between a woman whose eyes are genuinely present when she speaks and a woman whose eyes drift and drop, who breaks contact too quickly, who seems somewhere just slightly unsure of whether she fully deserves to be heard. When a woman speaks and her eyes are soft and present, not hard, not performing intensity, not doing anything deliberate at all, just actually there, she communicates something that words never could. She is saying, without saying it, that she is comfortable being seen. She is not hiding. She is not managing the interaction from behind a careful wall. She is right here, fully in it, and she is entirely okay with that. And a man feels that presence the way you feel warmth from a fireplace. It makes him want to stay in the conversation. It makes her feel real to him in a way that most interactions simply don't. Something specific happens when a woman holds easy, warm eye contact in a conversation. The man talking to her feels chosen. He feels like she is genuinely talking to him and not performing a version of talking to him for an audience that doesn't exist. And that feeling, the simple feeling of being actually seen and engaged with by another person, is one of the most powerful things a woman can create. Not through anything she says, just through being genuinely awake behind her own eyes. There is an opposite signal that most women send without knowing they are sending it. When a woman breaks eye contact too quickly, when her eyes drop whenever he looks at her, when she speaks to the space between them rather than to him directly, she sends a signal that she is not entirely sure she has the right to take up her full place in the conversation. And that signal creates a gap between them that neither of them chose, and neither of them knows quite how to close. Not because he is judging her for it, but because it is very hard to feel genuinely connected to someone who is not fully there with you. This is not about staring or creating intense, uncomfortable eye contact that makes the other person feel examined. It is simply about being awake, being genuinely present in the conversation, because you are actually interested in what is happening between you, looking at the person in front of you because you want to, not because you are managing an impression. That ease, that willingness to be fully seen while also fully seeing, is one of the most quietly powerful signals on this entire list. Signal number 4, how she handles the moments that don't go to plan. This signal is the least obvious of the 5, but it may be the one that lands on a man most deeply, not because he is analyzing it consciously, but because it speaks directly to something instinctive in him. The way a woman responds when something unexpected happens tells him more about who she actually is than an entire evening of smooth, well-prepared conversation ever could, because it is the one signal that cannot be prepared for. When the reservation gets lost, when something spills at the table, when the conversation takes a turn she didn't expect, when something goes slightly wrong in one of those small, ordinary, completely unscripted ways that life goes wrong all the time. How she moves through that moment is one of the most honest things she will show him all evening, because